and adventure. On this program, I'll show you how to draw in 3 dimensions using that special art word today, which is repetition. First, we'll draw a country fence. It looks simple, but it's a little more complicated than it appears. Then we'll add a farm building and some rolling hills, all to illustrate repetition. Later, when we do the Secret City mural, we'll add a row of figures. Now, you remember the Furbies, right, and the Underplanet? Well, we'll add a row of Furbies to the Underplanet. Ramona Jablonski is our paper cutting expert. She's back today, and she's going to show you a more complicated and real interesting way to create little details on your own paper cuttings. Zevtron's here today, and he'll tell you how easy it is to join the Secret City Club. Now, here's what you need to follow along. You need drawing pad, your drawing pencil, your guest book, so you can take some notes on paper cutting. Now, you gather those materials together, and I'll be right back. So you're in a frenzy, right? A drawing frenzy. You're hyped up, and you're ready just to blast across this paper. We're going to draw 3-dimensional drawings today. Now, of course, we're using all 7 magic words. You know those by heart. But we're using that important art word, repetition. We'll draw a repeated pattern of fence posts going back into the distance toward the horizon line, and we'll draw some mountains and a little farm building back here, all right? Now, when you use repetition, it's like creating a playground for your eye to enjoy. So your eye loves seeing repeated patterns on, let's say, scales of fish, or fur on Furbies, or even a row of unibears or a row of columns. Repetition is a very, very important word in your drawing. Now, I just drew a foreshortened square. I drew the post down here. This is our first post, and we'll make the post go back into the distance. And I won't use any alignment line to keep them all lined up, because this is an old fence. It has been through a lot of different weather changes and weather conditions. Just a really wobbly fence post there, and just kind of estimate direction off in this direction right here, direction 7. Another little foreshortened square. Add little nicks and little bends and twists into the fence post. It's not perfectly straight. It's been here many, many years, probably half a century. This through a lot of different storms. It'll get a little bit smaller as it goes away from you. Okay, repetition, a repeated pattern going throughout the whole drawing. And I'll even make this get smaller back here, a little higher up on the paper, and then smaller as it goes further away. Smaller and smaller and smaller. Pretty soon I'll twist it around the mountainside over here. Always start with a small foreshortened square though. And then you come down and you complete that post with a little grass tuft. You see how you plant it into the ground. Now, we'll draw the connecting little post going through all these sticks standing up. Draw 3 lines to represent the top and the side. Of course, a line in direction 1 and a vertical line. And then I could just go horizontally straight across, right? But watch this. A little bit of caricature drawing never hurts. A little bit of design, a little different style. I'll make it bend. Someone tried to jump over this about a year ago and tripped. Okay, so they bent the post just a bit. Of course, it's soft grass, so they didn't hurt themselves. And I'll just draw a really curvy connecting rod between those. This reminds me of a game I used to play with toothpicks with my brothers, where you connect sticks together and make them stand up. Repetition, very important word to remember. See, I connect all of them together, and then this goes straight, so I'll make this one bending down just to add different design, and then I'll finish that later. Now I want to draw a repeated pattern of rolling hills into the background. So I'll draw, let me see here, how about the first hill coming down through our drawing, and then draw another hill repeated back here, and then maybe a larger hill repeated. Repeated patterns are nice. And then, where do you want the farmhouse? Where would you like the little silo with a barn next to it? On this right here, or here? Right here, okay. We'll start with the silo, draw the big silo. And here's an interesting thing. You can curve the top of it right here. And we'll draw the top of the silo like you're looking up at it. That's a really big building. That's a grain storage spot. And then we'll draw a curve right here. And then draw the back of the little storage area. This is the for the hay.
Mark.
Hi, Ramona. How are you?
Just fine. I was looking at some of my paper cuttings, and I brought some things over that I thought might be interesting because they have in them some of the things that you've been talking about. For instance, if you look at this one, I think you can see repetition. Can you see where this curve is repeated?
I love it. Now, you made this yourself, didn't you?
Out of plain newsprint.
I saw you
yes.
over there cutting. This is what you did.
This is exactly what I did. This only took me a few minutes. This was just sketching with a pair of scissors.
That's beautiful design. Look at that.
And I thought this one might be interesting because you've talked about symmetry.
Oh, I see. It's the same on this side as it is this side, right?
As it is on that side. Exactly right.
It looks like very tedious work to do that.
It takes a little more time, but it's not as difficult as you might think that it is.
Can you have another one for me?
I have this one because I thought this would show you something about positive and negative shapes, which reminded me I was reminded of these shapes because of your white lines against a black background.
Kind of different, isn't it? The
It
white
is
against
different
black?
instead of black against white. The positive shapes are the shapes that you see, and the negative shapes are the shapes that are not there.
You know what an interesting thing, the way to see the positive negative is when you look at an object and if you squint your eyes a little bit, like that. So if I squint my eyes and I look at this cutting you have here, these negative spaces become real dominant in the
You begin
drawing.
to see them a little more clearly, don't you,
Right,
when you
and
squint your eyes at them a little
Positive and
bit.
negative spaces are used in all the drawings.
Very much so,
For
yes.
balance.
Makes them much more pleasing to the eye.
I'm going to watch you experiment with the rest of the paper cuttings later on, okay?
I'm looking forward to it.
Okay. Now I'm going to draw. These are interesting repetition. I'm going to use this idea and I'm going to repeat the pattern of some farms going back into the distance. I'll draw one farm here with a silo. And each one of these little mountains can be a little territory for the farmer to farm. So I'll repeat that pattern. We'll use repetition here. And I'll draw another silo. Back in a little smaller, you see? It goes back into the distance. We'll draw the barn where they store the hay and the animals are in there having some fun, eating their hay. And then I'll draw a really small one back here, using repetition for repeated designs. Okay, now if you wanted to, you could take your pencil and you could add some tone to this. I'm going to shade one side of my fence. I'll shade this side of the fence post. And then I'll shade this side, and this side, and this side, and this side. There's some different things you could do to your drawing. You could add little grass tufts to put some foreground. You could put rocks. You could put some trees in your drawing. You could put birds or animals. I'm going to continue this fence post back here. Get smaller and smaller until pretty soon all you see is little tiny lines. See how that disappears? And I'll connect all the lines with these little wooden sticks. It goes behind that fence. And we'll draw one large post right here. A real dominant post, right? See how it's really large as it's close to you? It gets smaller as it goes away? And I'll draw the grass holding on to that. Draw, draw, draw. Practice your drawing about 30 minutes a day. And the important word to keep in your mind, what's that important word? Repetition.
Commander Mark would like drawing to become as popular as laser lights, or lunar eloping. He has received so much mail, it is impossible for him to reply to your letters. But still, you must send your drawings to him so you can become a member of the super cool Secret City Club. This week's activity is to draw a picture of a vehicle for the planet. Sean sent a vehicle for the planet. It is a blue aviational craft. Send your vehicle to Secret City Club, Post Office Box 444, Moraga, California, 94556, the United States of America, planet Earth, the universe.
Hi, I'm Ramona Jablonski. I want to talk to you today and show you today some paper cuttings that I have done. Here's an example of one of my favorite kinds of cuttings. It was inspired by Polish paper cutouts, where they like to use a symmetrical design. They usually like to use black as the basis of the cutting, and then whenever they want to change color, they have to change paper. Each color that you see here is a new piece of paper that I had to pick up, cut into shape, and then glue on top of the piece underneath. Sometimes we do designs that are recognizable. Sometimes we do designs that are simply lovely to look at. Perhaps this is nothing that you've ever seen before, but we can enjoy the patterns, the positive, the negative, and the different colors as they are one beside the other and one on top of the other. One of the great fun things to do with paper cutting is to make the edges fancy. You can cut them into little points. You can make them nice, long, sweeping curves. You can do any number of things to these edges to add interest to them. In fact, there is so much to know about paper cutting and how it is done in so many different places of the world that I put it all together in a book. It's called the Paper Cutout Design Book, and if you look in your library, you may be able to find it there. This is what it looks like, and it has so many things inside of it to talk about paper cutting and to tell you how to do different kinds of paper cuttings. I think you might enjoy looking in your library for the Paper Cutout Design Book. I thought I might show you today the way that I go about making a paper cutting. It changes from time to time. I don't always do it the same way each time, but usually I start out with a large shape. I cut it first, and then I take other pieces of paper of other colors, and I begin to cut smaller shapes that will be stacked on top of the first shape. It really doesn't matter which colors you decide to use. All different colors appear together in nature, and so they certainly can appear together in a piece of artwork or in a paper cutting. As I begin to experiment with these shapes that I have cut, I will arrange them in one direction or in another, and I will start changing them around, perhaps turning them upside down, and perhaps sometimes I find that changing the direction makes a better design than the one that I thought about when I was starting out. Who's this I see?
Hello, Ramona Jablonski.
Hi, Zebtron. Nice to see you.
It's nice to see you. I am very much enjoying your paper cutting. It looks like a kaleidoscope to me.
Very much so, because in a kaleidoscope you have a repetition of designs, usually around in a circle. Would you like to do a paper cutting with me today?
Very much.
How about taking a piece of ordinary newspaper and select a pair of scissors from my collection here. I like to use my old standby, which we call the scissors with the black handles. Everybody knows these belong to me.
I like these yellow.
Good.
They match my glasses.
Use the yellow ones. Very nice. What I'd like you to do first is to take your piece of paper and fold it in half once. And fold it again. Very good. Now, you'll notice that you have a folded edge over here and a folded edge over here. You'll also notice that you have 1, 2, 3, 4 layers of paper to cut through. So everything that you cut is going to be multiplied times
4.
4 because of the 4 layers of paper. So if you want to follow me, if you take your scissors and you put them on one folded edge, and I always like that long S-shaped curve. If you start cutting an S shape all the way across to the other folded edge, very good, excellent, good. You have the start of a paper cutting. Now watch. The folded edge is very important. Everything that I do to this folded edge will add to the design. I can take little bitty hunks out of this folded edge. I can take great big chunks out of this folded edge. And I can move over to my other folded edge and do the same thing. But the thing that I cannot do is destroy my folded edge. When I'm finished cutting, some part of this folded edge must still be there, and some part of this folded edge must still be there. And if I remember that rule, my design will hold together in a single piece when I'm finished.
Let me see what I have created.
Lovely. It looks like a butterfly from another planet.
I like this design. How else can I create these cuttings?
We can do any number of things. As a matter of fact, when you asked that question, I just had an interesting idea. These designs that I was showing earlier have an interesting edge on them, and I can show you how to make that interesting edge. You folded your design back up to the way it was originally, and if you take your scissors and just use the point of them and cut out little V shapes, just like that. Let's see if you can do that.
V shapes?
V shapes. Good. And this shape, again. Good. And go right around the edge, cutting V shapes, one right after the other. And when we've lined these all up in a row, it begins to show an interesting edge, which will be repeated 4 times when our design is unfolded.
You do very nice work, Ramona Jablonski. I like your paper cuts.
Would you like to take this one with you?
Thank you.
You're quite welcome.
I want to show you a couple more examples of some kids who use the 7 magic words, and they've constructed fantastic drawings. They've developed incredible control over this piece of paper. Now look at the first one. This is done by Tom, his Secret City. He took 48 hours to draw this. He has shading, foreshortening, surface size, all those magic words, and he also has repetition in there with the windows and the mountains. Now this next drawing, take a look at this practice exercise by Chris. He took the idea of flying saucers and filled up his whole paper. That's a good idea for you if you have some spare time. You can fill up a whole piece of paper with flying saucers, using a lot of foreshortening. Now here's a drawing by Betsy Jablonski. She used shading. She also used repetition a lot throughout this whole drawing. See that frequently repeated pattern of the grass? It's very beautiful. It's Furby Day today again. You like those little cute Furbies? Well, we're going to draw a whole row of them. We're going to repeat the Furbies over and over again on the underplanet. So we'll start right here and draw, 3 or 4 Furbies going off into the distance. And they're coming down because they want to meet the magnetic transportation system that's coming up to pick them up. So I'll draw the Furby here, the round circle. These are fun. You can follow along with me and get some ideas for your own little underplanet creations or little cute creatures that you like to draw. Now I'll draw the legs of the Furbies here. They're just standing here waiting for the ride to come pick them up. And they're looking over here at the other Furbies that are down behind me. And their eyes right there, and their arms are, of course, they're very happy, and they're always waving their arms everywhere, little bananas. Now I'll take my pen and I'll outline it so you can see what I'm doing. I just get a rough idea of what the Furby looks like, and I draw Furby's eyes, and I draw his other eye, and then, let me see here, how about giving him a big smile, and his lip, and then I add the fur around his face, and then draw a real furry arm, thumb. And then I'll draw fingers right here, like almost like bananas. See, that's a good idea. When you draw fingers, don't worry too much right off the bat about, the fine anatomy detail of the finger. Just real loose and sketchy. Think of bananas or very long shapes to help you get those fingers down. Then draw some nice fur around here. And then I'll draw the legs and some fur, some more fur. And I'll put the arm coming out here to the side. Tapering. Remember tapering? It's skinny at the wrist and it comes thicker down toward the elbow and toward the shoulder. Some more fingers over here. Now, see, these fingers are a bit smaller than these because these fingers are closer to you, huh? See that magic? See that magic word? And I'll draw little fur balls next to the feet. Now, I never draw the feet straight across the paper. I try to slant the foot up toward the right in direction 1 or to the left in direction 7. So I'll do that right here. I'll slant this over. I'll draw the little toes. Aren't those cute little feet? We'll come down here, draw a toe. I'm using overlapping. I'm also using repetition. See the toes, repeated pattern. Your eye just loves those repeated patterns in your drawing. And I'll continue this line. And then I'm going to draw one more Furby back here. Draw the legs. I just really roughly sketch in where it's going to be. And then I take my pen and I go to it. I go for it, right? Okay. So you can have fun with your drawing. Whenever I start drawing, I start chuckling to myself because it gets me in a good mood. Gets you in a good mood too, huh? When you start drawing, get all enthusiastic and you get revved up and you're all hyper and your pencil flies across that piece of paper and you have total control now, right? Because you know all the magic words. I have another magic word I want to show you. Let's see if Elmo can explain it to you. Density, super important magic word to learn. You learn all those 7, you conquer that flat piece of paper. Now I'm going to color in the fur on Furby here. This is the funnest part because you could add some texture onto your picture, see? I'll even color in the arms. A little bit lighter than the outline so that you can tell what it is. And then I'll color in, well, I'll do the legs too. He was out in the sun. He had a suntan. Suntan Furby. See, when they climb up the ladder over here, every now and then they go out and they can enjoy that planetscape. But see, they're really needed to take care of the magnetic transportation system, so they don't have much time to enjoy the sun up there. The Unibears and the Furbies get along real well. They have little picnics together and lots of fun. I want to draw one more Furby back in the background. I'll take my pencil, of course, and I'll sketch in the round circle for the Furby and the Furby legs. I think Furby is a better name than drone. That was a good idea, Zebtrons. Okay, and then give this Furby a smile. I don't like this pen. I want to change my pen to a little sharper point. And then the fur. Very important for the Furby to have fur. And then we'll add a little more detail on his foot. See, little fur balls around the foot right here. Nice texture all the way around. Okay. You know, when I think about underplanet places, I think of a strange and eerie and a different place. But see, this underplanet, I've developed almost a fun, almost like an amusement park. But when I looked at this painting recently, I thought about a really strange and underplanet place. interesting. Now, if you visit your own art museums around your local area, get tons and tons and tons of ideas to add to your own drawing. I'm going to add a little more elaborate texture right here on my Furbies. Furby day today. I can Furby out. You can Furby out too if you want to. Oh, I almost forgot to give the Furby a foot. He wouldn't be too happy with me if he didn't have a foot. Put a nice little foot there, and then a foot back there. See, it's not very detailed because it's back in the background. You can't really see it too well. Using that word density, see, it gets a little fainter, not quite as distinct as it moves back. I'll color surround right here. A little more style and design. Style in your drawings. It's important to use and develop your own technique using all these art words. And then a little more color right there. I think I finished the Furbies. Now, draw, 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 stay in a super positive attitude, and I'll see you next time.